Cool. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Stacey.
Good evening, Stacey.
How are you guys? Ben, are you kicking things off?
You're starting.
I'll let you start. I'll let you do the honors, and then I'll.
Okay. Cool. Welcome, everyone. Just as people are jumping on, let us know who you are, where you're from, so we know who we're talking to. I'll just cover the quick admin-y things for the webinar. You will receive a recording later on after the webinar wraps up. It will also be available on YouTube and SubdivisionNZ Facebook group. And I'll just be monitoring the chat throughout the webinar. If there's any technical issues, just let us know. But yeah, my name's Stacey. I'm the Relab Content and Social Media Manager. And I will pass on to Ben to introduce tonight's topic.
Thank you, Stacey. Hello and welcome, everyone. Tonight we are joined with our favorite duo, Kirsty and Paul. They're going to address a much requested topic. And this topic is just how do you actually choose a builder for your development? So Paul, I understand that with 20 years experience, this is your bread and butter. You know the industry best, so you're going to explain a lot of your experience with us tonight. And Kirsty, with your own experience in recently selecting builders, construction partners, and going through tenders, you'll give us some inside view on this selection process as well. That will take us on a couple of slides, and then we'll jump into a series of questions from the audience because this is a much loved topic. And without further ado, Kirsty, stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Ben. So as Ben has said, we have the most requested topic for the webinar series, which is all about choosing your builder. And to let you know, it's also a topic that Paul is very passionate about. As I was going through a run through with him last week, he just talked and talked and talked. So I will probably sort of rein him in a few times through this.
I'm being quiet now.
Yeah, he's been very quiet now, but yeah, I do have some pokey things around. So no doubt he will get on a roll in the conversation. We'll try and keep it relatively tight because there will be lots of questions, we assume, and we want to make sure a lot of the focus is on the questions. So for me, if I think about choosing a builder, it was a massive challenge. I didn't know where to start. There were no real networks at the time, and I was extremely naive, jumping into, after doing a single house, into a 14-unit development. At the time, Auckland seemed to be awash with construction companies and builders, and I knew nothing about construction or building. Of course, I'd come from the food industry. I was quite familiar with tendering, especially for manufacture. And through the process, I did discover that tendering for food was effectively the same as tendering for a building. Same process, same thinking. And I ratted around for ages thinking about what to do and how to do it. The group I had been working with, which was the Development Collective, you'll have met Bayard on one of the previous webinars. They helped considerably, and but it was me that went out and got the tenders and interviewed the construction team and put it through my own quiet matrix. I knew I needed a construction partner, and that construction partner had to be a group I could trust, a group that I could actually work with. I don't like people working for me or doing things to. I like to work with. I also was quite focused at the time on quality and, of course, financially secure, amongst other things. So these were the focuses for me. However, we've worked through, I've met a lot of people. A lot of people have come to me asking questions about what builders to use, how to choose, how to look. And finally, we're at a point now, Paul, would you say that we can probably present a matrix and have a discussion on a kind of more ordered way of choosing a construction partner? So, Paul, there is a technical process, as I understand, and I did discover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you have to start somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, you'd have to start somewhere. So I think what you're trying to do, so there's a tier of tendering process with regards to selecting a builder, and I think what you probably got to do is start with a high level pool of builders. You're trying to get sort of like 3, 4, 5 builders in the mix, and with regards to the selection process, I think that there's probably the many tried and true ways. So you want to go on recommendations, you want to go on people's work that you've seen around town, and you want to look at established companies and people that are fit for purpose. And you probably through that process of talking to peers and networks and other professionals, you probably want to rough in, three to five builders. If you were totally new. So if I was doing a project, say I had to do a project in Fiji, for argument's sake, where I've got no existing relationships or networks, the first thing I would do is I would talk to, I'd probably jump on the internet, do a quick Google as to who pops up. I would be talking to local consultants and trying to get a short list of reputable people. So that's sort of step one.
That comment. When I think of a discussion I had with someone, they actually drove around the suburb that they were planning to develop to see the signs up, who's building already in the area. And the other thing, one of the recommended builders I got was through a real estate agent.
Yep, and they're all really, really good sources. So I think once you get a pool of initial builders, I think what you want to do is you want to reach out, make contact with them, and go through a quick filtering process. So the filtering process would be you want to establish their availability. Are they flat tech at the moment? Do they actually have a bandwidth to look at your project? You want to understand their track record. So while you might do that drive-by process, you might see some really, really shiny signs and somebody's really slick at marketing, you actually want to make sure that they've been around for sort of 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that they're established in the market, that they're a known quantity and have actually got built projects. You want to also probably have a quick chat with somebody on the phone and just get a sense check of whether there's a vibe, whether you like the person that you're talking to, and you probably want to have a bit of a chat to them also about their terms of business and how they operate. So that's the form of contract, payment terms, do they require deposits, etc. So you probably want to do a quick filtering on that. So, if it's a master builder, you're probably going to want to use a master builder's contract. There are some group housing companies that have bespoke construction contracts. You need to decide whether that's fit for purpose for you, and you want to probably just do a high level filtering on that basis.
That reminds me of my new project, looking for a builder there. Very early on, I did look at one particular group home builder, and we had a chat to them, and they were very particular with using their contract, and I didn't like their contract, so that was the end of the discussion.
Yeah, correct. So there's probably no rocket science to the first step. It's pretty straightforward. I've gut feel on what you're seeing people doing, and you probably want to just get a sense of terms of reference and contract, and whether this is something that you can work with.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying that when you actually go to step one, do your own research, go out and have a chat with lots and lots of different builders, and then compile them together, and then go ask opinions and everything from them, or is there another way to easily go to the source?
Sorry, just ask that again. So
is there an easier path to that? Is there maybe another place that we can go
to source? So you can probably Google is a pretty safe bet. So Google builders in the suburb. And I think Kirsty's right. You probably want to talk to local real estate agents. You just want to jump in the car and drive the streets. It's probably a quick way to filter down. You may already have other consultants on board, and you want to talk to peers. So people tend to have a habit of building in suburbs they're familiar with, or suburbs that they've got friends and neighbours in, because they there's
I like that idea, driving around and seeing the local builders.
Well, that's actually quite good, because you actually see the sites as well. And when you see the site, is it a mess? Are the people there, behaving in a site-safe manner? It's quite a good view.
So what you want to do is just do a high-level sense check, have a quick chat with them, and get a feel of who a pool of builders are that you'd want to talk to. And at that point too, you might have a chat to them and ask for some references from them and some projects, and try and figure out people that you might know, that they know, and sort of get some sort of common connection. What I would say is, when you do that initial filter, the quantity of people that you want to go to market is, you probably want to try and filter it down to ideally 3 builders, really no more than 5. When I go out to market, I'm trying to do 3 to 4 tops. And the reason for that is when you go to 50 people in the market, they will know that because there's only 2 or 3 key merchants who supply materials. It's either placemakers or carders or ITM or somebody or Bunnings, and they will know. They'll talk to each other and they'll figure out. And if a builder finds out that you're speaking to 10 other people and they're pricing it, you won't get a quality submission. So you've got to respect that it costs builders money to tender projects, and what you want to do is you probably want to extend the courtesy of going to no more than 3 to 4 so that they've got a real chance. I think the other thing is too, you probably don't want to go to less than 2 if you can, because what you're trying to do is if you get a pool of 3, one drops out or one gets too busy or one has an outlying price or something, you've got another 2 real prices to fall back on.
Just to say, we've got some really good questions, popped up.
Yep.
I'm not going to quash your flow at the moment, Paul, and answer it, but it's a question I do want us to answer afterwards.
Okay,
So
absolutely.
I'm going to move on. How do I move my slide there? I'm going to move on now and get Paul onto the technical matrix.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to, just before we started this, we were talking about a marriage. And of course, some people have heard me talk about a development as, you're giving birth to a child. So if we go back to this stage, this is kind of like you're on Tinder, really, aren't you? Getting ready for your Tinder.
That's a slippery slope.
But yeah,
so what we're alluding to there is, I think, and it probably goes into some of the selection criteria, is that when you one of the key things is you've got to rely on gut instinct with a builder, and you've actually got to like the people that you are doing business with. That note to or allusion to a marriage is what we're sitting there saying is when you sign and execute a contract with a builder, it's like a serious commitment, and you're committed to a journey and of delivering a project. And if you fall out of love, or stop communicating and decide you dislike each other, it can become quite a tough building project. And there are certainly a proportion of projects that I get involved with sort of partway through or into, and that's because the owner and the builder have stopped communicating for various reasons, and I'm sitting there in a guidance counselling role, improving communication. So I guess what we're alluding to there is it's important that you can communicate well with the builders and that you like them as a person, and that basically you have a good rapport, because there will always be rocky moments, the rocky moments that I'm fielding at the moment, and the real world situation. It's been raining for the last 2.5, 3 weeks, and I've got grumpy clients who are frustrated because they're paying interest holding costs and there's no progress on site. And then I've got grumpy builders because their progress claims are going to be really light this month because they can't actually get the work on site, and they're probably not going to cover the cost of their overheads. So I think, and then we also have a bit of a dynamic market where things are changing with deposits now being required and whatnot, and it just involves a sensible conversation. So communication is important.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I've just noticed Will has put a second question up, and both of them are actually quite well timed for us to answer at this point, I think, if you don't mind, Paul.
Sure.
So the first one is, what impact do the constraints imposed by lenders have on your choice of builder? For instance, lenders may require the builder to have experience doing townhouse developments.
Yeah,
in the past.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably an early question that we'll probably cover that one off in a bit more detail. But you certainly want somebody who's fit for purpose, and you want somebody who has experience in delivering these projects well. Sort of Kirsty and I were sort of having a side conversation earlier in preparation for this, and one of the things that we covered off was that a lot of people are venturing into multi-unit developments at the moment, and 2-story and 3-story walk-ups. Some of these, especially when you get to like 3-story walk-ups, they're almost bordering on commercial projects. They've got passive fire, they've got an element of them of complexity in construction detailing where they're bordering on commercial projects. And although it's a residential project in the blanket of being residential, it's not comparable to a single level brick and tile house. So I don't mean disrespect to many builders, but just because a builder specialises in building single level brick and tile houses and residential homes, and they might do them well, does not mean that they are suitably qualified for building medium density 3-story walk-ups. They are a specialist skill set in their own right. So,
Great.
so what the finance companies are looking at the moment, especially with all the complexities of material supply and a shortage of labour, etc., is they want a builder to demonstrate that they're not pioneering on your job. Your job's not the biggest one they've done. You know, it's something that they do on a regular basis and eat them for breakfast.
Yeah. So basically, there's a big difference between a commercial builder and a residential builder.
Correct, or even there's residential builders within residential builders, and what if you're venturing on a larger scale residential project, it could be say up to 50 units, or it could have height, i.e. 3 stories. You just you don't want to put all residential builders into the same category. They're specialists.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And the second point from Will is how early in the process would you select your builder?
That's a really good question, and the answer is depends. So, so the latest you would select your builder is you would tender the building at the same time as you are submitting the building consent. So often what we'll do is we'll lodge the building consent. Building consent takes about 6 weeks to process now, give or take. And what we would do is we would basically run the tendering process at the same time. The reason why we would leave the tendering process that late in the piece is because you have the most design information. When you've got a building consent package and you already have a resource consent and an EPA in hand, you've probably got 98% of the information. You know, things like colours and final kitchen design and tile selection and are neither here nor there, but all the
get a
key
more
information.
accurate code.
Correct. Yeah, you've got 90 something % of the design information to price. You're going to get a more accurate price. But on other projects, we may choose to bring a builder in earlier, even as early as the resource consent stage. Certainly through the building consent development, because what we want is we want pricing information out of them so they can price early. They can also give lead information on material availability, and they can also assist with the construction methodology, you know, how you go about building. And by engaging a builder early and bringing their expertise and experience to the table, you can get significant value, and you can also in savings and in cost and material selection and also in speed of project. Bringing a builder on earlier should, in theory, make the project go quicker.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can I just check everyone can hear what we're saying?
Yeah, audio is all
Stacey,
good.
yep, all good. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
So
Okay, so let's move through
To the matrix.
to the
Sure.
matrix.
Okay, and then we'll circle back and answer some of these questions,
Yep.
guys.
Yeah, so you're not forgotten, friend
Okay.
Tom, and your question, we will deal with that after.
Okay. So if I was doing say a medium density residential project for a corporate client, and it might be a client that's using government money or sponsorship money or something, and it might need it, and the tendering process would need it to withstand an audit. This is probably the process that we would typically go through. So what we do is we split a tender into price and non-price attributes. So price is pretty straightforward. That's the money and the scope, and we'll talk about that in a tick. But the non-price attributes we'll probably jump into a little bit more detail now. And so in looking at non-price attributes, what we're wanting to know is all elements that just sit straight outside price. And we've done a summary here. So just to quickly go through this, in this particular scenario here, what we would typically do is say the maximum score could be 100 points or 100%. What we've done here is we've gone through and we've selected a whole lot of criteria that is non-price, and in this case here we've said that the maximum score you could get is 75 out of 100, and in this case here we would weight price at 25%. So I know that most private developers on here would sit here and say price is 99.9% of, and the other 0.1% we'll figure out. I just want the cheapest price. But the one thing that I would say to that is that price can be adjusted with a stroke of a pen in a conversation, whereas non-price attributes can't be adjusted quite that quickly. So
and the cheapest price could actually mean that they've got no experience and you've got the most expensive
Correct.
spend
Yep.
on finance.
Correct. So what we'll do is we'll there's no right or wrong with evaluation on non-price attributes, and we've sort of loaded some generic ones here, and yeah. So let's go through what we would typically do. So experience is basically the project team. So what we would want to see is CVs of the proposed project team, the actual people working on the job. Who's the site manager? Who's the quantity surveyor? Who's the foreman? Who's the project manager? What about the company owner? So if we were running through a project at the moment, say it was one of yours, Kirsty, and we were going to weight the experience as part of the tender process, we would, so I'll just backtrack a bit. What we would actually do is we'd probably set as part of the tender process criteria to let the contractors know, or the tenderers know, what we're going to assess them on. So what we might choose to do is actually give them this table. We can choose to disclose the weightings or not, but we can sit there and say, you need to provide this information here, and this is what we're going to assess you on.
Paul, do you mind if I do a wee interrupt? Because Ella's just actually got quite a good question.
Absolutely.
And that was one that I was, when we were doing a run through, that we were talking about. So she has said, do builders normally provide this info in their tender like they do in large 3910 contracts? So I'm just going to say that 3910 doesn't actually have to be for large. It can be for small.
Any size.
Yeah, so it's just a different type of contract. But when we were discussing this, we were saying a lot of small builders won't put a lot of this material together, but we assume you can talk it through with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You just got to ask them. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And basically, builders will furnish this. So most builders are getting slicker and slicker and better and savvier at marketing and social media and realizing that people want this. So builders are realizing the importance of non-price attributes and looking shiny and professional, more than just Ranger Utes and logos on the side. So basically, if you ask builders for CVs of their project team, most of them will have them on file and be able to give them to you at the push of a button. So just to jump back into this, the evaluation criteria for experience of the people and the CVs, you know, if we were saying assessing the site manager, if the site manager had, you know, and don't take this the wrong way, guys, this is not meant to be loaded or selective anyway, but if, well, it is selective, but it's not meant to be loaded or offensive anyway. But if a site manager had 20 years New Zealand experience, was a trained Kiwi builder, had a New Zealand diploma in construction, had worked for reputable companies that we knew, household names like they were ex-Fletchers or something, and had worked for the current company for 5 years, so clearly had a good relationship with the existing company, and could clearly demonstrate that they personally had delivered projects identical to the one that you are asking them to price, you'd have to score them pretty highly. That would probably be 8.5, 9 out of 10 by default.
Could I curveball that and say that they could only have New Zealand experience and not have seen how it could be done better? Maybe that comes into your innovation thing offshore. Like, how do they do it in the UK, or how do they do rapid builds?
So the reason why I say that, and this is the opposite extreme. So the opposite extreme is we have somebody who's immigrated from France. They have a qualification that we don't recognise. They've landed for 3 months. They've just started their first job in New Zealand. They've never delivered a construction project in the context of New Zealand. They have never even rung up and booked a building consent. They've never finished a job, never had to try and achieve a CCC, have no relationships with any Kiwi subcontractors or any of those sort of additional human factors that we want out of a project, and are still within their 90-day trial period. You'd kind of have to sit there and say that might be a 2 or a 3, you know, because there's a high risk to that versus the other person. So those are two extremes, but what you want to do is you want comfort that the person has a network of trades and suppliers. They've worked with them in the past. The existing company that they work with, they have worked with for some time, and they have experience in delivering a project like yours. They can sit there, pop you in the car and reference you to 2 or 3 other very similar projects that have been successfully built that you can walk around and touch. That's going to tell you that the person is suitably qualified. Okay. So that's what I would say there. So the next one that we've put is innovation, and I guess this is what is the X factor of the company? So a company can sit there and just submit a price, but you might get some companies sit there and say, if you change the construction methodology, we can build it faster, and that could save you money, realize your profit quicker. You could do material substitution. If you do this, we could save money. So what you want is somebody who brings expertise and experience and smarts to the table that gives them an edge. They're not just vanilla. It's some sort of wow factor, something that is either a tangible or intangible premium to your project or project delivery experience.
Can you like just give an example of one of those factors? For example, if you were to say that, oh, a builder is actually innovative.
Okay, so if a builder said, let's change the construction methodology and material selection, and if we did that, I can build it faster, and you'll save money. That would be a really good, a very good example. They might sit there and say they might have best practice knowledge with regards to material selection and sustainability with regards to waste management on site. And although that's not something that's permanently left to the end user, that may have a high value to you building your project more efficiently and in a more sustainable way. So that it's what you're trying to do is just get an X factor out of sitting there saying, I do. This is something more that we can add. This is the extra mile. This is some cleverness we can bring. This is some speed. This is some cost savings that we can bring. So often some of the innovation that it's often little things like just construction methodology, durability, finishes, you know, and it's pretty good when you get builders who've like frequently built something that's identical to what we're building now, and they just sit there and say, hey, look, this was the curveball that we had on this job. This was the problem we had on this job. This worked really well on this job. Yeah.
Say thinking outside of the box, right?
Correct.
Instead of a box, you know, you want to think outside.
Even just incremental improvements to
Correct.
make things better.
Yeah, correct. So that's what we're talking about with innovation.
So next topic.
Quality.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So quality is a really interesting one. So I guess there's a couple of objectives that you want to measure here. So the first thing is you actually want to have a look at other projects that your specific project team have delivered and assess them. Are they well built? Are there obvious defects that you can see and rough workmanship? And you've got to measure that in two ways. So one is the company, and then the second one is the actual individuals on your project, because you could get a large company like, say, I'm going to pick on Fletcher Construction again. Fletcher Construction's probably got 50 site managers and project managers in Auckland, made up number, and they might show you a really, really shiny building downtown, and but that's not your project team. That's somebody else. So you want to assess the physical quality of a project that the company does, and also the individuals on your project. So you know it's a good safeguard, and that's also as far as subcontractors too. So if you've got like a high-end project and it's got some real high-end and critical finishes to it, you want to go also beyond the construction company and look at the subcontractor supply chain and make sure that they are you know, robust, good contractors with a strong reputation.
So would you ask for something like this? Would they be able to supply this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I guess that's the physical built thing that you want to see. And then the second thing is you want to see the company system. So the company should have, you know, ISO 9000 equivalent or internal company quality systems. So you just want to make sure that they've got control steps in places and processes, etc., that the company follows so that there are checks and balances. And that can be, you know, from, you know, typically when I do a project, we've kind of got like about 3 quality steps that we do. So the first one is around the tendering process and the process of closing out tags, etc., and getting a full price. And we'll talk about tags in a tick. The second one is the quality system for the actual construction. I probably rely on the contractor to provide that, and I want to have a look at that and have confidence that it's a good system and that they actually use it. So, you know, there are some companies that got really, really good quality systems. Like I'm doing a project with GJ Gardner at the moment. They've got really, really good internal quality systems, you know, and then there's a QA system with regards to closing out the project. So a lot of these projects that we're doing have a titling process to them, and you know, we need to close out the resource consent requirements, the building consent requirements, the EPA requirements, getting starting the 223 process at the right time, getting the EACC signed off, etc. And basically we want, you know, on the projects that I'm doing at the moment, we have a significant focus on checks and balances and doing this at the right time to not lose time. So quality, I guess what I'm trying to say is quality can mean different things to different people at different stages of the project, but there's probably 2 high-level things. One is you want to physically see things that the builder has built and the individuals have built, and
that's the tangible quality, right? right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you want to check that the company has systems.
The systems to support the quality. You know, I
Correct.
always think of you know, the quality methods where you've got your mountain and your
Yep.
ball going up the mountain. That's your quality, but
Mm.
you need to pin it somewhere.
Yeah.
So you pin your quality with a good system. So you want
Yep.
to make sure there's a system to help you go uphill.
Yep.
So we'll move on now, Paul.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would just sit there and say is in weighing some of these, and quality could be a really good example here. So if you are building rental bunkers and they're all built out of block and just bulletproof things, your quality standard, and you know that you're going to rent them out for 10 to 15 years. At the end of the 10 to 15 years, you're going to have to renovate them anyway. Your quality, the importance of
Finishing.
quality and finishes might be slightly lower. And than say at the opposite extreme, if we were doing a bespoke $10 million house for somebody, where the quality at that end could be everything.
But
So,
I could argue that. I could argue that and say that if a job is worth doing, it's worth doing properly. But it may be the level of the finish. So a high quality, high end, you may have fine carpentry, whereas and that's of top quality. Whereas a rental bunker could be a Maltica cupboard, but
Yeah.
that's fine quality. You know, it's
Yeah. So this is probably more to do with like workmanship and finish.
Yeah. There's a
And-
difference between
yeah.
workmanship and the quality of materials,
Yeah.
right?
And the reason why I say that is, and trade-off is the importance, because if the maximum points that you can give for the entire project is say 100, if I was doing a $10 million house, you might sit there and say quality is 50-60%. It is the be all and
Yep.
end all. Whereas at $10 million, if one builder's say $500,000 more expensive than the other, you might choose the trade-off because you would rather spend 10.5 million and have a greater degree of comfort that you're going to nail the quality rather than trying to save money, although it's not a small quantum of money, because the quality is the be-all and end-all in that scenario.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's rental stock, for argument's sake, and you're not personally living in it, you may weigh quality lower and put other elements like, say, speed ahead. Speed could be half the weighting.
Okay, so we're going to move through to warranties and health and safety. Warranties and health
Sure.
and safety.
So warranties is what guarantees and warranties are the builders providing. So if it's a master builder, going to provide a master builder's warranty. If it's not a master builder but a residential builder, you might request like a 10-year Stanford warranty. If it's an NZS 3910 contract, you might be using the warranty schedules in that contract. I think it's Schedule 13 off the top of my head, Schedule 6. So basically, what you're wanting to do is understand what sort of warranties and guarantees you get at the end of the job and the quality of them. Okay.
Health and safety.
So I just want to interrupt you
Yeah.
1 second. Ella had a really good question. She asked, do builders normally have ITPs, inspection, test plans, checklists, etc., initialed by an LPV? So what I think she's saying is there a quality control process here?
There's no legal obligation.
Is there
So
a record of work that's needed? You know, like an LBP, you know, like you've got your PS3. So everyone on site should have a signed off record of work, but that's not actually a quality, that's more the record.
yeah, those are satisfying council requirements more than a
QC.
QA procedure.
Yep.
So I'm just having a look at the question again. Inspection testing plans. So there are some minimum. So Ella, in answer to that question, there are some minimum requirements. So like for a typical residential project, you'll need like producer statements from structural engineers, anybody doing the contractor doing the structural work on the house, the plumber, the electrician will give a COC. The waterproofing contractor will give a PS3, and depending on the complexity of the house, there might be a PS2, and a structural engineer will be required for a PS4. So there are some of those ITP requirements in order that are dictated by the building code or council, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But going beyond that will be up to a builder, depending on the quality and sophistication of the builder.
Again, Ella's just said, is it common practice in the building industry? And she said, by the sounds of it, no. I think,
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
The bigger the contractor, the more complex the job. Yes,
Yeah.
the smaller the contract, the simpler the job.
Is this
Less likely.
Is this New Zealand specific?
Yeah.
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 Yep.
So it depends on the size and complexity of the job, and it depends on the size and sophistication of the company, the contractor.
Okay, let's move through to health and safety. And I do know there are a couple of other good questions. There was one from David and one back quite a bit. They're not forgotten, but
Okay.
they just will slip them in later.
Yeah, so health and safety is important. So you do want to see so as the principal, even the principal on a residential house, everybody has a health and safety obligation. You can't totally escape it. So you want to make sure that the company has good health and safety systems and procedures, and you want to see those sort of evidence. You want to make sure that there is good practice on site. People aren't wearing jandals around site. People are wearing high-vis jackets, appropriate PPE. And you would expect a company to have systems that you want to evidence. And so there's two ways of doing that. One is you can ask for copies of their SSSP, their site-specific safety plan, and their company policy plan. You can obviously monitor your site during the process of construction. On some projects, what we do with corporate clients where they want to ensure they satisfy that requirement, we employ independent health and safety auditors. They come to site once a month and do a health and safety audit on behalf of the principal and go through the site. It's not very common on residential projects. Residential people probably see it as an unnecessary expense.
Well, I must say,
Yeah.
my 14-unit build, the company I chose, which was Green Homes, they're part of Watson Hughes, and quality and health and safety were vital for me.
Yeah.
And the thing I found very good was their dedication to health and safety, and the site manager was inspected and scored.
Yeah.
And if I turned up without my hard hat,
Yeah.
whew,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was all very good.
Yeah. So with health and safety, you want to make sure the company's got the appropriate systems, that they're being monitored during the cycle of your project. But this is obviously at tender time. So what you want to do as part of the building process is you actually want to have a look at other building sites that they're delivering. So if they look terrible and you sort of at a glance, a drive-by glance at there and say, that doesn't look like a safe site. It's a mess. It's a bomb site. It doesn't look well planned and managed. You would have to raise a query as to why that is, and you would have to score it appropriately. Ideally, all contractors, if you're not scoring 8 or more under health and safety, you've got a serious question as to why you're using them, or what's got to change to do that.
So it certainly would not be the right thing, and I don't think anyone would want to have someone
No.
come and work on a building for you and they go home harmed.
Correct.
Yeah. It's, probably the worst situation you could
Might
have.
cause to a lot of delays.
And harm, obviously we don't want people harmed, but harm also costs time and money because site stops. Methodology changes have to take place, etc. So even if you don't care about people, poor health and safety would actually have a cost. So you certainly want a company that has good practices in place.
Okay, let's move through to the next
Sure.
one, financial clout.
Yeah, this is really important. So especially at the moment with escalating costs and the construction market starting to turn off, and contractors might not making the money that they thought they were going to make. So one of the things that we ask for on a building, on a project, if it's a new builder, even if it's an existing builder, is what I want is what I call a letter of comfort. And a letter of comfort is, I want some correspondence from the construction company's bank manager or accountant that that company is profitable and in a sound financial position. And so I don't need to know how much money they make, but what I do need to know is I want somebody has inside knowledge, or it could come from, if it's a larger company with a board, could come from the board, that basically somebody with the appropriate experience and inside knowledge of that company can just sit there and say, at this given moment in time, we think the company is in good health and there's no issues that you should be aware of. And we call that, it's a bit of a slang term, but we call that a letter of comfort. It can come in, whether it's a formal letter, it's an email or something. And you just want to have confidence that the company's in a strong financial position. Yeah.
Going through your project.
Correct, yeah. So they might have too much work on and run out of credit. The other thing is, certainly on commercial projects, construction companies are required to provide bonds, and bonds are really expensive things. It's a company physically taking real money or putting a lien or security over their personal home or something to provide a security for other contracts. And sometimes what will stop a contractor from growing is actually run out of capacity to service bonds. So what you want to do is you want to have comfort in whatever form that takes, that the company's not going to go broke tomorrow, and it's probably either going to come from their bank manager or an accountant, or if it's a larger firm, the board.
Okay. I know that financial clout was actually quite important for me. Again, that was one of the selections that, Green Homes was a smaller group, but because they were owned by Watson Hughes, I felt secure.
That gave you comfort,
yeah. And the last thing I wanted was anyone going under.
Yeah.
So I'm just now going to quickly flick through to David's question, which was, has COVID and the recent construction material shortage helped you add any additional criteria to what we previously used? Well, we're now going to material sourcing.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So,
Good timing as well.
yeah, so absolutely. So, what COVID has done is made materials harder to get, and materials, the bigger the company, the more clout the company has with material suppliers, the more likely they are to get materials. So unfortunately, Bob the builder, who might build one house a year or 1.5 houses a year, is going to be the person who's hammered the most with a shortage of jib. If you are Fletcher Construction or some really large firm, you are going to have a very strong material supply.
Maybe didn't Fletcher actually have? Didn't they?
We're not going to go there. No, I thought about it. We're not going to go there. You get, if you're Fletchers, you get materials early. Yeah, but so what you want to do is you want to make sure that the company has capacity to get materials. And what you find with the merchants is that companies are ranked like small, medium. They go through financial tiers, and the larger the company, the more likely they are to be favoured. Nobody's going to confirm that in writing, but
That's just the economy of scale, isn't it?
Correct. It's anecdotal. So what you want to do is, if you're entering into a project, you probably want to get, again, comfort that they can get materials. So you might want to get a letter of comfort from the material supplier saying that I'm about to enter into a contract to build 20 houses, and I'm going to need jibboard in 6 months' time. I understand you're getting your materials through Carter's, so I want a letter of comfort from Carter's that they believe they can supply jibboard. So yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, what COVID has done is it's done a flight to safety, and safety is the larger firms with the stronger supply chains. Because certainly like the larger housing companies, etc., they have. So one of the things with regards to material suppliers, it's a two-way street. So you get the larger material merchants saying to, say, like the nationwide housing franchise companies, I want all your business because you build 500 houses a year. And those companies turn around and sit there and say, well, I want your best rate, I want the sharpest rate in the market, and some to give me a competitive advantage. And the quid pro quo from the merchant is they have to guarantee supply. So basically, some of those larger housing companies would be, through contractual arrangements, probably getting preferential material supply. Don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
Okay, so now we move on to communication style.
Yeah, and relationships. Do you want to do these ones sort of together?
Yeah, together.
Okay. So it goes back to that. We probably jumped the gun talking about getting married to your contractor, and what it comes down to is, look, you're in anywhere between
2-year marriage?
Yeah, anywhere between 6 and 2 year relationship with a contractor to deliver a project. If you're a private individual, it's probably really high stakes poker. You're probably, maxing out your financial affairs, and it's either kind of all or nothing with regards to getting the project delivered. And when it's all delivered and sold down, there's all. Until then, there's nothing but pain. And you are extremely dependent on a contractor delivering for you to be successful. You are at their mercy almost once you've signed them up. So you've got to have a really, really good relationship with them. You've got to be able to communicate with the person, get on with them at some level, and have a really good communication style and relationship. It's so important. It's the most important thing, because things will always go wrong on the job. At the moment, I have clients who are really upset because we're not getting the productivity on projects because it's raining, and they're getting beyond upset. They're getting shitty. they're sitting saying, why is the job not happening? Why are you not on my job? I know it rained for 3 days, but Thursday it was sunny. Why were you not on job on Thursday with 50 people making up for the 3 lost days? And you know, we're sort of having those sorts of conversations, and you know, you've got to have a good dialogue. You know, when things go wrong, when you're worried at night, when you feel like, you know, when a variation comes through and you don't feel like it's reasonable or there's not enough information, it all comes down to dialogue and communication. And it's so important that you maintain a good communication dialogue through the project. As I previously said, often get involved in projects where a client's at their wits' end, they've fallen out of love with the builder. I'd say these sort of lovey-dovey things in jest, but it's because it's a relationship, you know, and they can't communicate anymore, and they're stressed, and the builder has more knowledge than them, and they feel disempowered because this builder's taking all their money, they've got control of the site, and it's like, help, what do I do? How do I get sanity? How do I get control again? So I've probably fallen down a rabbit hole with that, but the key thing is, you've got to get on with them. You've got to like them as people. You've got to feel an affinity. I can't underestimate how important that is.
You know, I know for me, the being able to connect that's part of the relationship thing, and that's vital because you know, my build through COVID, it took longer. And I had to spend time with people that I normally wouldn't have spent time with. So there had to be a connection. But the communication style, that's slightly different for me. And that was, how did I communicate? For me, I like to see people. I like to read people. Other companies may insist that it all has to be via email. I find that a sole email and, you know, once a week is not a communication style that works for me. So, you know, communication style, I think, is worth a consideration. Some people may not want to be communicated with.
At which point you might rate it really lowly. But so it's that communication relationships is super critical.
The last one on the
key to solving problems, right? So
it is. You did right, Ben. It's the key to solving problems and approach and attitude. So track record and reputation, I think we've probably already covered that off. I think another one that probably needs to go on here under non-price attributes is gut instinct. So you
get to do gut instinct after you've done track record reputation.
Okay, sorry.
So that's the end of it.
Okay, all right. So that's the selection criteria. You can choose to weight them however you like. You know, like I said, if it was a $10 million house, quality could be certainly well north of 35%. If we were building a stadium for an event, like say the Olympics, program might sit at like literally 80% because it's all or nothing. You know, if you don't have confidence the contractor can deliver it in time, what's the point of building it? So it really depends on what's critical to you. But with most residential projects, there's probably a little bit of a mixture like this. So I think what you want to do there is in this scenario here, and what's kind of missing from this spreadsheet is you go weighting where we've got score. You'd go builder A, builder B, builder C, builder D, and you'd go through and with them. And what it might do is on non-price attributes is help you go through an analytical process of why you would choose a builder and which one on non-price attributes. The other thing to note is that you do reserve the right to go back and revisit things. So like you might go through the non-price attributes and find that a builder measures low, say maybe on experience, maybe because they've got that guy who's just from France who's just landed in New Zealand, and although
very innovative.
But you might sit there and feel more comfortable with someone who's had 20 years New Zealand experience, and you can sit there and go back to the company saying, look, like your tender, like everything about it, but it would really help if you reconsidered your project team and explain to them why, and then they may look to change that element, and then you can reassess their score. Same with any other element. They might not provide a warranty, and they might, you know, and you might sit there and say, look, if you could provide a 10-year master build warranty or a 10-year Stanford warranty, you know, your score could go from 0 to 5, and that's something that they can adjust. So what you want to do is you're trying to find weaknesses in all the submissions, and that'll help you focus the further review process. And you're also trying to find an analytical way of comparing them. So So, I mean, these housing franchise companies might find this offensive, but you might sit there and say, well, what's the difference between GJ's and Golden Homes and Jenny? And they can all build brick and tile houses, and they build 1,000 of them a year, and they do a really good job. And you might use this process to pick someone because their price is more or less the same, and it's actually really hard to differentiate them if your build is very generic.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay.
do you want to quickly touch on, I'm just conscious of time, Paul, so
Yeah.
price, and then you can talk about gut instinct.
Sure.
And then we've got a question I want to ask from way back from Tom, I think it was. So if you touch on the price components briefly.
Yeah. So I know most people probably sit there and say price is 99.9%, but it is, but it isn't, because, and the reason why I say that is price can actually be adjusted with a stroke of a pen. It's a really easy thing to adjust. And so when we're looking at price, what the first thing we're trying to understand is the price that's presented to me the actual price, and we're trying to clarify what we call tags. So tags is a construction slang term for missing items or provisions, assumptions that the builder has made. So a tag could be the builder might sit there and say, I've assumed that there's no skirtings or scotias in the house, and it's like a clarification point from them. Or a tag could be, I've excluded the warranty. There's no 10-year master builder's warranty. So what you're wanting to do is you're starting with a price, you're trying to go through all of their conditions, or what we call tags, and you're trying to either go back to the builder saying, no, that tag's not acceptable, go back and price it, or you're making a decision as to whether you would accept it. It's an acceptable tag.
Because if you're not careful there, you could find out, as we were talking, an extreme and probably a ridiculous one is that a builder has tagged out painting the building.
Yeah.
So of course the tender looks cheap, and you go, oh yes, I want this one.
Correct.
You haven't checked
Then you're
the
not
tags.
comparing apples to apples.
Correct. So what we do is we want to make sure that the price is actually the price to do the job, if that makes sense. Is it the full price? So what we do is we start with the beginning price. We run through all the tags. We price and remove them. Again, the slang term we use is zero them out, meaning there's none left. To clarify, they're either accepted or priced. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to go through the payment terms. So one builder might require a 10% deposit, the rest might not, and you might sit there and say, I don't want to pay a 10% deposit. So that might have a bearing on whether you use that builder. So, or some builders might have 7-day terms. Some builders might sit there and say, you actually need to pay us fortnightly because we pay our guys fortnightly. Whereas at another extreme, you might get a larger builder sit there and say, well, we're happy to be paid on the 20th of the following month. And because they're giving you a form of credit, the credit actually has a value. So so that's sort of part of the price. So what you're trying to do is through the payment terms is just understand the conditions for payment. And then the other.
Can I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
On this matrix here, which item would you say affects price the most?
And the non-price or the price attributes? When
Experience. I'm going experience.
Yeah, under the non-price.
under the non-price, which one affects the price the most?
I would say as well, experience is a very big one.
That's a really good question. I would say when you say experience, it probably doesn't actually sit here. I'd probably say project resourcing, how they're going to resource it, and the team. Certainly when you look at larger projects, it's quite interesting. Some, so if we're doing like a 50-unit development, sometimes you might see a company sit there and say, well, it's going to have 30% of a project manager, and that person's going to be across another 2 jobs. Whereas another company might sit there and say, well, we think it needs a full-time project manager. So project managers, aren't necessarily cheap people, and that's probably going to have. They could have actually a 6-figure difference over a large project of a long duration. So I'd probably say the resourcing of the project and quality.
Okay, I'm going to move you on to answer before we get on to the gut instinct. I want to answer Tom's question, which was, what would you suggest when you can't get 3 to 4 builders to show up to do quotes at all in boom times? So, obviously wanting to select a builder, but no one's responding.
So boom times are a different story. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a relationship. You're starting a relationship straight away. So what you want to try and do is just start a dialogue with them. So when builders are super busy and they're getting 10 phone calls a day to do work, it's a terrible analogy again, but it goes back to that dating thing where you've got to stand out from the crowd, and basically what you've got to do is you've just got to put the time in. So you've got to sit there, start a conversation with them. You've got to sell the project that you're doing, make sure the project sounds attractive, that it's something that they want to do, and basically you've got to invest a bit of time in them. So maybe if they're really busy, maybe you front foot it and sit there and say, well, can I come and see you at your office, or can I come and see you on site and talk about my project? And by you starting a dialogue with them and investing time in them, there's a rapport that's built, and there's also a little bit of a sense of commitment from them that that they need to return your effort. So you're probably more likely to get a builder engage in boom times and assist with pricing your project. But you've got to, when they're really busy,
generically hard, right?
Yeah,
because it'll be really difficult because everyone's busy.
Yeah, so that's kind of one off. So like if you're a regular builder, a regular developer, you know, what you want to do is actually build a team with a long-term relationship. So what I'm trying to do is build, I don't necessarily have one or two pet builders. What I'm trying to do is, depending on the size and the type of project that it is. So if I'm doing a corporate fit out, I have 3 to 4 fit out companies that I've given work to over the years. And what I'm trying to do is build a team of 3 or 4, and they know that when I pick up the phone and ask them to price the job, I've already given them a project, so they know I'm not a tire kicker.
Maybe the answer to the question is to reach out to a project manager.
Yeah, correct. So what you're trying to do, and what everybody should be trying to do, and you start with your first job, is you're trying to build a team, you're trying to build a rapport, and you're trying to build a team of 2, 3, 4 people that you give regular and repeat work to. Because what you do is, in building that long-term relationship, is you will naturally get sharper prices out of them because they know you're a real client, and it involves less effort from them to get your work, and basically you get a loyalty element out of them. But it's got to be a two-way loyalty thing, and that's at all scales.
Okay, because we're closing in on time, I'm now going to ask Paul he can talk about his gut instinct comment. It's quite a good gut.
Yeah. So gut instinct. So I think, like in all things in life, you can go through this process and you can measure and weigh people, and but a lot of it relies on gut instinct. So at the end of it, you can go. You want to sit there and allow a bit of margin for sitting there saying, look, I know this person on paper looks like they might have scored the highest on the non-price attributes, and yes, they're 50k cheaper, but just my bones tell me that this next builder is the better one to go with. And I other than it's just my gut, something that I feel in my bones, I can't actually quantify it. And we all have it. It's a sixth sense. It's the antenna that sits on the back of your neck, or whatever it might be. It's like gut instinct. You certainly want to put a value on that. And we even recognize that in corporate projects. What we do is we'll do price attributes, we'll do non-price attributes. And what we might do is allow a score of, say, 15%, and it could just be your gut instinct. And it comes down to who presented the best. You know, it might be we're all kind of tainted a little bit. You might just find that
we all got different guts.
Yeah, correct. You know, and it's really interesting certainly on a corporate project, because you can go through and measure everybody, and you can sit there and say, look, I know this one's got the most experienced team and this and that and everything else, but in my 15%, I just like the way they presented, and they just dressed the best, and someone had the nicest pair of shoes, and these are all part of being a human being and deciding who you want to go with. And you can just sit there and say, my gut instinct says, even though they weren't this highest score, it's just something about them I liked, and I'm going to give them 15. And you know, and so you just want that little bit of bandwidth to just rely on your gut instinct as to why you want to select the project. And something I wouldn't ignore. I wouldn't go totally pragmatic in this process, because there's something in trusting your gut.
But it comes with experience, right?
It does, but it's also life experience. It's not just construction experience. You just have a, you know, as we all get older and wiser, our gut will tell us if something's too good to be true or artificial in the scoring or whatever the case may be.
Okay, because we are closing that point, but I want to address a couple of comments from Ella and one from Naresh. So Ella, you've asked about contract types. We won't have time to address that this time, but that topic will be noted.
That's another topic.
Another topic. Don't you speak? I'm not.
Okay.
You're not. The next one is Naresh. I'm not going to put your question to Paul because that's what he does. He is project manager, and he's going to say that yes, he would say you should pay. No,
not
you're not
necessarily.
speaking.
Yeah, I know.
But what I'm going to say is, and I'm probably different to a lot of people, is I project managed my first one, which was one house, and that was no issue whatsoever. I employed project managers client side for my 14 house development. I won't disclose who they were, will I, Paul?
No. Moving on.
And then because I'd been through that, I saw that my next one, which is 3 houses, there's no way I'm managing that myself. Even though I've done one myself, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm employing project managers. That's my personal view.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yep.
I'm not allowed to talk about it because I won't be impartial. So, Ella, this is actually a really, really good question. Do you sense check or query low or high priced items?
I did that. That's how I found the issues, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good. So Ella, one of the things that we do when we take a project out to tender is we ask the contractor to price it in a trade breakdown. So what we do is we sit there and say, what's your P&G? What's your margin? What's the painting price? What's the window price? What's the roofing price, etc. And it's a really important tool because what we do is we basically sit there and you've got builder A, builder B, builder C, builder D, and then you've got like painting and you go across and one's 20, one's 19, one's 24, and then all of a sudden you get one at 32. And what it does is the trends tell you what the market rate should be, and it's a really important assessment tool with price because if we use that example of one builder being at 32, we might find that they're like cheaper everywhere else, and if their 32K painter all of a sudden came down to the norm, they could be the cheapest builder. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find genuine errors in the price, unders and overs, and both are just as important because what you can sometimes actually do is you can actually take a cheapest builder and make them cheaper because they might actually have that more expensive painting price, and you can sit there and say, well, I can't show you too much, I can't tell you who they are, but here's my spreadsheet, I'm just going to show you these 4, and this is their prices and this is yours, and it tells me that your painting price is out of whack, and I think you should go back to the market and get another price, and you might be able to legitimately achieve a letting gain. The other thing too is it'll tell you if why the cheapest bid is the cheapest bid, and if they have the cheapest P&G and cheapest margin, it would probably send an alarm bell that they've got no money in the job, and you would sit there and go, ooh, I really want to see that letter of comfort because, you know, look, you might hit a period like now where you've got companies used to doing 10 projects at once. It's getting a bit softer. They may choose to buy a job just to keep people employed. But you kind of want to, and there have been many periods in the past where that's happened in sort of more my commercial background. And we'll sit there and have a conversation to the builder saying, you're going in with no margin. And the builder will sit there and say, yes, we acknowledge that we want to keep our people. And we need to keep everybody busy. And it doesn't mean we're not going to lose money overall as a branch or a business entity, but we need to buy some work, and you will go in eyes wide open and aware of that because there's nothing worse. I mean,
so basically summarize everything. You got to do your due diligence. You got to basically do a lot of research as well with that, and then you've got to look into the details because the devil's in the details.
Correct.
And then
very much.
So
then you got to follow your gut.
So you do. And one of the things you got to be so careful on price, and it's really good to break down that schedule, is you got to be careful that a price is not too good to be true. So, you know, in my early 20s when I was kind of focused on trying to get the cheapest price out there and trying to get these letting gains, and you were a rock star trying to save as much money as humanly possible. Sometimes we would do these spreadsheets. I was working for a main contractor back then. Sometimes we would do these spreadsheet runs with 4 to 5 sub-trades that priced it, and maybe a whole lot of people were sitting at like say 150, 160, 180, and all of a sudden you get this price at 120. And the price was actually too good to be true. They've genuinely missed something. And an error that I made back then was I'd take the cheap price and take the win and be the rock star for that moment because I'd achieve a really big letting gain. And then what would happen is you would start using that contractor. They would realize halfway through the job, or subcontractor, they'd realize halfway through the job they've made a mistake.
Yeah.
And then you have a problem because their problem is now your problem. So, and it's the same with a main contractor. I can promise you there is nothing worse than having a main contractor go broke on your job, because the first thing that happens is the job goes slow because they're trying to cash flow your job on other jobs, and they're trying to slow down the pain. So next minute you have this period of going slow for a couple of months, and like, it doesn't matter how much you talk to them, cajole them, do whatever you can, you know, buy them bees to work, to pep them up in the afternoon, work later. It's not going to make the job go any faster. And then next minute you have a problem where people are not getting paid, and then you've got an issue with a contractor who's now in default, and it takes time to get them off your job, and you will just lose. You will pay a lot more money to get the next person back in, and you'll lose 3 to 6 months of your life changing one contractor out for another. Yeah, you can do it slicker, but it's just unnecessary pain. So you've got to be sure that you're getting a competitive price, a good price, but experience tells me, having fallen into this trap in the past, getting a price that's sub-market is you're asking for trouble, and you'll pay dearly.
Right.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. I know there's a lot more other questions out there, so later on, just post it into the group. Subdivision New Zealand's always there, and then we'll be happy to answer any of those questions. And next month, we have a topic, and it'll be development life cycle, and it'll be ran by us as well. So stay in tune for that. Video will be posted in about a day or so with Stacey. She'll give it to us. But yeah, any other last thoughts there, Paul? Yeah,
so Ella, I know you've got lots of questions coming through. Just take them onto the Facebook page, and I'll answer them later this evening and tomorrow. They're good. They're really good questions. So we could sit here talking for an hour answering questions, but we can do that offline. So just any questions that are on here, guys, just take them straight across to the Facebook page, and we'll continue chatting, and I can answer them.
Cool. Awesome.
I hate to take up too much time, but can I have a quick 2 minutes just to talk about a little bit about Relab? I'm guessing a lot of people have come over from the Facebook group, so if you aren't aware of Relab, we're a property SaaS company. We provide 360 property data that can be accessed all in one place, mainly targeted towards property developers, real estate agents, and investors. This was quite good timing because we had a pretty big release overnight with some new features. I don't know if anyone's from Christchurch here, but our release included some pretty big features for that would be helpful for builders and developers in Canterbury. You can now you can oh my gosh, I haven't even talked much. So you can now access EQC claims for Canterbury addresses, and also listed land user registered data from Environment Canterbury. So now overall, if you're looking at a property in Canterbury, you can get a really good understanding of what actually is happening below the surface, if there's any characteristics or significant events that would affect a development or build costs, for example. And yeah, some pretty valuable data there. And I won't take up any more time.
If you can share those photos with us that you probably have on your screen at the moment, and share that through the Subdivision New Zealand group, so then it'll let us know that there's that tool available in Christchurch.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I can put that in there.
Thank you, Stacey.
Thanks, Stacey.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys. So so feel free, any of these questions that didn't get answered about this specific topic, or any others that you kind of drop them into the Subdivision New Zealand Facebook page, because it's good to start a dialogue on some of these, and you won't just get our opinions, you'll get the opinions of
others.
Yep.
And everyone can learn from it.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, thank you.